Hi, my name is Chloe, and this, come here baby. Wow. This is my daughter Rosalie. Get the socks out of your mouth, silly. This is my daughter Rosalie. She is 1 and 4 months. Yeah. And I thought I would share my labour horror story. Here baby, go. There you go. It was August 21st. I went to a hospital to have a checkup, ultrasound, and just to make sure everything was going okay while I was pregnant. And they said to me that she had stopped growing in my stomach. So they were planning to induce me and keep me in the hospital for another week until she was old enough for her to come out and her immune system be okay to survive. And I lived an hour and a half away from the hospital at the time, and so they wanted to keep me there for monitoring each day for a whole week until she was born, which was on the 28th of August 2023. So all was well and fine once I started staying in the hospital. Like, they did a couple more ultrasounds, they put the heart monitors on for an hour or two a day, and everything seemed fine, like she was healthy, all that, other than the fact that she'd stopped growing. And then so it comes to August 27th and they were getting ready to induce me. So on the 27th they put the balloon in and inflated it to try and dilate my cervix, and I had that in for about 5 hours, 6 hours, and it caused, like, I wouldn't say labour pain, like I wouldn't call it labour pain, but it was basically just intense period cramps, but not all that bad. Like, they were handleable. I was able to handle them. And so that stayed in for about 6 hours, and they'd changed my rooms because I was in an individual room for the week that I was there, but somebody else needed it more, so they transferred me just into a ward with, like, a shared ward. There were 6 beds in the room of all people that had just given birth. And it came to, I was supposed to be going to bed. My mum and partner were at the hospital with me, and they had to go to the emergency room, and they sat in the emergency room until about 4 o'clock in the morning. And after they, like, checked me before I went to bed, they said that everything looked fine, and so I laid down, was trying to forget about the pain and go to sleep so I could get some rest for the next day because it was going to be very eventful. And so I tried to go to bed, but then at about 3 o'clock in the morning, her heart had, like, dropped. Her heart rate had, like, completely dropped and kept going up and down, like continuously up and down. And so they brought me up to the labour room and they took the balloon out and waited till 5 o'clock in the morning, and they broke my waters, and then they tried to start the induction medication, and the second they started it, mine and my daughter's heartbeat had rapidly dropped in a matter of seconds of it touching my blood. So they had to immediately stop it, and our heart rates went completely back up to normal. There was no more issues with that. And about 45 minutes later, I asked for the epidural because pain started. So they got the anesthesiologist to come up to my room, and he had just finished a 12-hour shift, and I had to lean over the side of the bed, stay as still as I possibly could while having heart monitors on my stomach to keep track of her heartbeat as they were putting it in. And I obviously couldn't see him with the needle, but my partner could, and he said that he had put it in wrong at least 10 times before he actually got the needle anywhere. So it came to the last, like, he was trying to put the needle in and I was hunched over in pain. I was yelling at my partner to take the monitors off because he was the one holding them there because it was causing even more pain than the needle. So Hunter, my partner, he took them off, and then the nurse came around and just shoved them straight back on my stomach, and eventually the guy had got the needle all the way in and he laid me down, applied the medication, took the needle back out, and he didn't leave the connection tube or anything in. He just laid me back down and put a bag of ice on my shoulders and my legs, and I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't move anything from my neck down. He had paralyzed me with a spinal, so he'd given me a spinal instead of the epidural. So I was completely unmovable for 4 hours, and they had to put a catheter in so I could actually go to the bathroom and stuff. And it came to, by the time I needed to push, I could feel pressure like just at my backside. Like I just started being able to wiggle my toes, and I started to feel pressure on my backside, like towards my lower back. And then they told me it was time to start pushing, but I still couldn't feel anything at all. I could just wiggle my toes. So they get me into the position to start pushing, and I still couldn't feel anything. They were telling me to like push when I felt a contraction coming on, but I couldn't feel them. So they'd had me in this position and I was trying to push, but I physically couldn't feel the contractions. I could feel me pushing, but that was it. And then about 5 minutes into the pushing, not being able to feel anything, it all just hit. It came back like nothing. I could feel absolutely everything, every bit of pain, everything in the world. And I just remember looking at my mum, crying, scared that I was going to vomit, because I have a phobia of vomiting. I have since I was like little kid, and I was so scared I was going to vomit. And so and my mum just said not to worry about it, I'm going to be perfectly fine, I'm not going to vomit, and to keep pushing. So I continued to push, and about 15 minutes into pushing, her head had like started to come out, but we had lost her heart rate, so they had to put a little, I'm not too sure what it is, so excuse me if I get this wrong, but they had to put like something, I don't know whether it was a clip or whether it was a needle or something, but they had to attach something to the tip of, like to the top of her head to monitor her heartbeat and stuff, or heart rate. And then about not even 5 minutes later, she was fully out. They laid her on my chest, and she didn't really cry. Like, I personally can't remember her crying. She may have, but I don't remember that. And they'd put her on my chest, and it was the most wholesome moment ever. Then about 5 minutes of her being on my chest, they took her away, they measured her, they did all her tests, They gave her back to me, and everything was fine with her, and we tried to start breastfeeding, but she couldn't latch. So they gave me a spoon, and I had to manually like get the milk out and like give it to her in a little spoon. It was very weird, but she was very tiny. She was born 3.5 weeks early, almost a month early, but she's doing absolutely fine. Her growth for the first couple of months was on the lower side of like all the charts and stuff, but now she's perfectly fine. She's still small, but what can you expect? My whole family is short anyway, so she was bound to be small either way. But she's perfectly happy and perfectly healthy now, and absolutely nothing wrong with her. And I am grateful for the hospital for helping me through everything, but it was definitely not a good experience. But it's what I had to do to have her, and I definitely don't wish it didn't happen. I don't care how many backaches and headaches I get from it, but yeah. I hope you enjoyed my story,